The government reported that employers added 372,000 new jobs in June. The unemployment rate stayed at 3.6%. If we look down into it, black unemployment fell by 0.4%. Hispanic unemployment remained unchanged. Moments ago, President Biden issued a statement on the jobs report saying the U.S. has recovered all of the jobs lost during the pandemic, giving credit to his administration's policies. And with us now to take a closer look at this is U.S. Labor Secretary Marty Walsh. Secretary, it's a pleasure to see you. What does this report tell you about the state of the economy?
Well, it shows that our job market's strong. I think the president mentioned in his statement about the private sector fully recovered. We're also seeing the manufacturing sector recovering, warehousing recovering, the child care. One area that I've talked about the last few months, we've seen gains in child care, people going back to work in the child care industry. That's good for the long-term sustainability of our economy because child care was hit very, very difficult, very, very hard during the pandemic. Many of those places had to close. And having more child care availability for parents will help us get more people back into the job market. There's roughly about 5.6 million people right now that are on unemployment or not in the market. And having good, strong child care will help us get more people in. Certainly, so we're seeing nice, steady movement here. And, feel really good about today's report and feel good about, quite honestly, where we have come from since President Biden has taken office in getting people back to work.
And in the past couple of months, we've seen the number of first-time unemployment claims tick up, a sign that layoffs may be on the rise, Secretary, but at the same time, there are still nearly 2 job openings for every unemployed worker. How does the job market seem to defy all of these fears of a potential recession?
Well, as far as unemployment numbers, we did see a tick up, but when you talk about tick up, we're still the lowest number of unemployment, I think, since the 1970s, people on unemployment. So we're still seeing good opportunities there. I think what we have to do is just stay very focused on recovery. We're focused on moving forward, recovering from the pandemic. The president certainly is taking on the challenge of reducing costs that people are feeling at the gas pumps and at the kitchen table with inflation. We laid a plan out. I have my piece to do with it when it comes to supply chain and making sure that moving forward, whether it's a shortage in trucking. So we just need to continue to move forward. Americans have gone through a lot in the last 2 years. Quite honestly, the world has gone through a lot. Inflation is not just a United States issue, it's a global issue, but we just need to continue to move forward one step at a time.
Yeah, Americans continue to go through a lot, and a lot of them are seeing that their pay is not in any way helpful versus inflation. Secretary, there's one issue that I want to ask you about. We kind of bore down on this. The Mission Square Research Institute says that in April, state government employment was nearly 2% lower than it was before the pandemic, while local government employment was just over 4% lower than it was pre-pandemic. We're talking about jobs like teachers, firefighters, police officers, sanitation workers, bus, train drivers. Public sector hiring is lagging behind the private sector. Is this a trend that continues, and could it have an impact on the services that we all depend on?
Well, there's no question it's going to have an impact on the services. That's one of the numbers. I mean, as the former mayor of Boston, I look at those numbers all day, every jobs report, and government hiring is down. And that will indirectly have an impact in cities and towns all across America. I think about teachers, teachers' aides, bus drivers. You think about trash collection pickup people, water and sewer jobs. All of those jobs in our communities. If cities decided during the pandemic, in Boston, we didn't have to lay anyone off. We're able to keep people. But a lot of cities and towns had to lay people off. When they laid people off, they're not rehiring them. And I think with the American Rescue Plan that was put through Congress, there was money given to cities and towns across America. I mean, I think that hopefully we'll start to see some of those investments in those jobs that were lost. It's not about cutting waste. It's about providing a service to your constituents. Right. And quite honestly, that's what cities and towns will have to do more of.
And as a former mayor, I'm thinking, how do you change that that paradigm? In other words, people were let go of, and how do you bring them back up? How do cities change that?
Well, you're going to hear it from your constituents. And, if you're out there, and when I go to a city as Secretary of Labor, I look around, I look to the curbs, I look to the streets, I look at the trash, I look at the development, I look at all those different things. And when the people start complaining or being concerned about something, then you have to act to that. You have to react to that. And some of these reactions might be to put people on payrolls. And I think that, there was an opportunity here, cities and towns. I don't think they intentionally did it to cut their costs and lower their head count. But I think at some point, you know, if it impacts your ability to run your city, you have to change that. And many cities and towns still have American Rescue Plan funds that have not been spent yet. So you should be looking at that, making those investments.